Orange juice is so good.
Welcome to CultFans Live. Today we're breaking from our normal coverage of The Outpost to give everyone a look at Theodore Beaulieu, author of 301480 and the Blood Brother Chronicles series, reviewed by Crowley Weekly as a beautiful book based on the magic of relationships and extraordinary people in an extraordinary time in America. A brilliant read. Along with being an author, Theodore is a spiritualist and many talented man. Today we're breaking from our normal coverage of capacity and design that we really expect to hear more of as we continue. So have a listen on why you should keep an eye out for Theodore and the Blood Brother Chronicles today. Hi guys, welcome to CultFans. Sorry for the minor technical difficulty. I'm Minerva, just here to broadcast if my connection will stand, and wrap for today. Shay couldn't make it, so Chris here is going to be filling in her slot and pulling up the center. But for most of it, Stacy, who has a previous existing interview with Theodore, is going to be taking the floor today. But again, everyone's actually here for Theodore, and we've had some difficulties. How are you doing today?
Good.
All right. We're actually glad to have you here. Now, for a while we've been exclusively covering The Outpost. So, for our viewers turning in, you're an author for a hot upcoming series called The Blood Brother Chronicles. But before we get too far into that, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do when you're not an author, screenwriter, visual artist, whatever you're doing?
My name is Theodore Beaulieu, and wow, that's a really good. What do I do when I'm not writing? I don't know. I'm always writing, so I wouldn't even know. When I'm not writing, actually writing, I'm thinking about writing, or when I'm just a born writer. The Blood Brother Chronicles is just all consuming. So I'm never not doing it. I'm always thinking about it, thinking about different plots, about different mysteries, about different approaches to certain situations. Because the way I think as a writer inside my head, I'm always contemplating, like I'm doing hard edits for book 3 right now. And I'm just, basically, I'm always writing. But I'm also a spiritualist too. So I spend a lot of my time just either helping, healing, inspiring, or just, working to make this world a better place. I know that sounds kind of hokey, right?
I mean, I understand that that's actually something we want to explore a little bit later so the audience can understand. But for now, let's touch a little bit on your work. So actually, because you have an existing rapport, I'd actually love to pass you over to Stacy right now. Let her pick up and chase a little bit of the story that is the Blood Brother Chronicles so people can learn about you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. And thanks very much for showing up, Theo. I've been fascinated with the series for a while. We go back a little ways. You know that I love it. And we discussed the Blood Brother Chronicles in the interview we done about a month ago. But for those who may have missed it, who aren't up to par with where we are, can you maybe give it a quick rundown on what the Blood Brother Chronicles is? Maybe your elevator pitch in a nutshell?
Oh, okay, exactly. The Blood Brother Chronicles is basically it's a book set in 1922, South Carolina, during Jim Crow, Prohibition. Everything concerning racism, Ku Klux Klan. It's the deep segregated South. The 1920s was when things were hot and what I like to say hot and hard, and not in a good way. They were just. Segregation was law of the land back then in all 48 states. And it was a really tough time for people of color, and not just people of color, for Jewish Americans, Native Americans, as well as newly arrived European immigrants from either from Western or Eastern Europe. It was just a really tough time. But the Blood Brother Chronicles covers Ben and Slick, 2 half-brothers. One is Creole, one is Cajun. Creole, meaning African-American, because I'm half Creole. And that's Ben. And Slick is Cajun, which is white or white American, white. Basically, these are vigilante killers. They kill for hire, or that you can hire them. They kill off bad guys, and you can hire them to take out whoever you want. And they stumbled upon several different mysteries, and their life starts to turn topsy turvy once they begin to understand. They've always known that they were different supernaturally, understanding that they weren't necessarily human, but their lives really start to take a turn for the best and worst when they're starting to be involved, when they start to get involved with a major case concerning land grabbing. And this is actually a true story in the Deep South, especially during that time period. Concerning land grabbing and how land was being grabbed and stolen from African Americans, as well as Latinos, as well as Native Americans. So from there, it's just a story that just covers 7 different characters that are in linear narratives and linear. The plots go side by side. They're all basically trying to get this one bad guy, but there's several different mysteries that are going that coincide throughout the story. There's a serial killer. There's this Native American mystery. It's not more like a mystery, but it's more like they come across clues that lead toward this 10,000-year-old mystery. That's really, really cool.
It is it's awesome
really
book.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, how did you prepare to write some of the folklore that is in the book? Did you already have a well-rounded knowledge of some of this, or was there time spent actually researching some of this, or how did you incorporate some of the vast folklore that you cover in the books?
That is super easy. How I came across a lot of the folklore was as a young boy with Aunt Jet. My Aunt Jet, when I was a kid growing up in Louisiana and Houston, Texas, my foster family, as well as my native family, they did a lot of moving around, or they were working. We were working class people. So with school holidays during the summertime, I was jetted off to Colorado County, which we call the country, and that's where Aunt Jet lived at. And I remember she started telling me stories about the boys when I was probably around about 8 or 9. I remember the first story she told me about. It was her neighbor. Excuse me. Pardon me. Aunt Jet lived in the same house that her mother lived in. That house was over 120 years old. And she started telling me stories about the neighbor that was there when she was a young child, back in the early 20s and 1930s and 40s, and how racist he was. And how one time and then she told me that Slick had came to visit her. Slick, of course, is the Cajun blood brother, the white brother. And he came and said something went next door and said something to the guy, and he never said anything to Aunt Jet's mother ever again. In fact, he wouldn't even look in her direction. I don't know what Slick told this man, but he told him something, because this man was frightened of Aunt Jet's mother forevermore. He would never say anything to her. But so she started with that. I remember that story specifically. And then as I got older, the stories got racier, and they got more and more involved. And I remember when I was like 13 or 14, I wanted to be a blood brother. I used to really, when I would go to sleep at night, I really would fantasize that I was sitting there with Ben and Slick, like having a beer or something. Like I was like riding the car with them wherever they were going, because I wanted to be a blood brother like them.
That's cool. Oh my goodness! So you've pretty much lived this your whole life.
Yeah, I did, and I didn't even realize it, because I was bitten by the fashion bug early on, but I made a promise to Aunt Jet before she passed away. I was actually at her passing when she passed from this earth. She was in Bentop Hospital in Houston, Texas, and I was actually there when she took her last breath. She took her last breath in my arms, and what she told me the day before, she's like, the stories I used to tell you, don't let them stories die with me. She's like, I want you to tell those stories. She said, those stories the world need to hear. And I made a promise to her. I said, no, I'm going to do exactly that. And it always bothered me in the back of my mind that I never was able to keep that promise. But you know how you have some things that you think about from a moment and you put them out of your mind like, okay, fine. I'll get to it. And it just so happens that life made a way to whereas I could get to it, you know?
It brought you back to it.
Brought me back full force. Because when I retired from fashion, actually I quit fashion. Just too stressed out, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. I was freelance, and I just had all this time on my hand when I wasn't tending to clients, and I was making an abundant amount of money, and I had nothing to do, and I'm like, okay, well, April 26, 2013, I started writing 3014 AD, which is probably going to be out in 2020, and I just woke up one Saturday morning and I'm like, and I love vintage IMAX, you know, the little ones that look like little puppets. I used to call my IMAX my baby because they look like they have the little base thing. They look so cute anyway. I had one at the foot of my bed and I used to call him Bobby. And I said, Bobby, I'm going to get on you today and see what you can do. And I started writing and it felt weird. So I had lunch. And then I had coffee and I started writing again. And then I never stopped. And that was many years ago. That's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 5 years ago. I haven't stopped writing since.
But we're glad you haven't because you've got some great books that's out.
Thank you.
With your family background and personal history as a spiritualist and a medicine man, which we'll touch more on that a little bit later. But how do you feel it impacted your ability to tell the tale of your distant kin? Did it make it easier? Did it make you feel more obligated to handle it carefully and represent it to everyone?
Mm-hmm. You know what? In all honesty, I felt obligated. I feel obligated every single day to make sure that I tell Skeeter's story, that's Benjamin, as well as Slick's story, as accurate as I possibly can. For two reasons. These men are part of my ancestors. They are my ancestors. They're part of my bloodline. And number two, they wouldn't have it any other way. I'm a spiritualist. When I don't get something right, Slick is the most vocal of them all. And he will literally scream in my ear, no, that's not something I would effing do. I'm like, okay, fine. Dude, it's like, wow. I think the way as vocal as he is now, the way his spirit is now, he's probably 10 times, 100 times more vocal when he was in Skin. But I can literally feel, they feel surrounded with everything that I write. They feel submersed in the subject matter. But I tried to make him gay for a little bit. And Slick, I felt no.
So you have your guides to keep you on track.
I had Slick to keep me on track. Slick was like, I'm gonna kick your ass, and if you try that, I may haunt you. And so it's just one of those things. But listen, that was the first and only time I ever felt that from him, and I felt that, and it was like, okay, you know what? He wasn't gay, and because I'm gay myself, but this wasn't his truth when he was in Skin. Why try to play those games now? Right. Be truthful, be honest. I don't care if it does make a great story angle. This is that. Make up a new character, but don't exactly. See, exactly. But don't, but do not do that to him because that's not. He's just, I'm pretty sure that Slick has nothing against gay people. I'm gay myself. I'm pretty sure if I was with the Blood Brother Chronicles right now, I probably would be their most coveted crown jewel. Because I'm the youngest cousin. They probably would protect me. You know, they'd be my boy. They're my cousins. But that's not his truth. That's just not his truth. But being a spiritualist in writing, it's very involved. It gets very involved.
It definitely shows in the books because you can
Thank you.
definitely picture everything. Um,
Thank you.
Now, the books take place in the 1920s, like what you said, in the Deep South, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of timeline-based issues from flappers, women taking a stand for their dominance, slavery and
Yeah.
oppression, and not just the African Americans, like what you said, but also outside groups such as the
Exactly.
Irish and different
Exactly.
ones.
Exactly.
Corruption in the offices and law, people thinking they're above the law, but your series looks at some of this differently. It
Yeah.
takes place in the lives of the two Cajun half brothers, fighting against the wrongs for the little guys
Yeah.
and having a killer time, pun intended.
Woo! Oh
uh,
yeah, baby.
there's so much going on. How do you manage it all, weave these stories, and most of all, is there any underlying subtext to what you're trying to tell the audience?
Oh yeah. You know what? The underlying subtext is this, and I really have to say this first and foremost. It's brotherhood. It's love. Um, to everyone who hears my voice, either now or in the future of this podcast, this show, understand something. Your skin color is a very, very small equation of who you happen to be on this earth. It matters not to the universe, and it shouldn't matter to anyone else. You are valid. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. You are a unique creation unto yourself, and you should not be put into a fucking box. It's about brotherhood. It's about love. It's about understanding. And it's so wonderful. Slick and Ben was such a beautiful blessing in this political landscape, in this international political landscape right now. Because one's a white boy, one's a black boy, and they are prime examples of the fact that we are brothers and sisters when it really boils down to it. When it really gets hot like gumbo, and you render it down like a good roux, we are all brothers and sisters, and that's how much we should love each other. The underlying understanding, that underlying dialogue should always be brotherhood and sisterhood. Kelly and Sally, which are the two other protagonists in the very important protagonists in the books. One is an assistant. One is a super uber rich socialite. Kellyanne, by the way, is Slick's wife, and Sally Mae is Benjamin's main squeeze, which is in book 3 they're actually going to marry. Spoiler alert. And they're going to have babies they're going to actually have two twins that are actually, believe it or not, psychic. But the babies are actually, because the boys are gods, they're actually much more than that. But that's all I'm going to say. But it just goes to show you. I mean, the books are created, and mind you, I didn't specifically create them this way. This is how they were created. This happened all organically. They are books of their time, showing that no matter what, even in this time that was so segregated, under the tough, horrible laws of Jim Crow, Black people weren't even allowed to eat in most restaurants. They weren't even allowed to shop in most shops. And to be honest with you, Jews weren't either. And Native Americans, we didn't even bother to shop. We just created our own on our reservations, or we just stayed out of sight, or we just basically just did what we had to do, but we stayed out of way.
And even the Irish went through a little bit back
Oh
then
my
too.
God.
Yeah.
No, the Irish went through a lot. If you had a brogue accent in the Deep South, no matter if you were blonde haired, blue eyed, you were, in fact, they thought you were worse than a black man because you knew better. Somehow, some way, you talked the way you talked because you wanted to. And then if you wasn't WASP, if you wasn't Baptist or a Protestant or Methodist and white, you were wrong. That's Catholics. Catholics were thought to be just like Jews. You were an outsider, and they treated you as such.
Mm-hmm.
The Klan didn't play any games. The Klan did not play any games at all. They would hang whites just as quickly, and Jews and Native Americans just as quickly, sometimes quicker than they would hang blacks.
That's one thing that
it was. Excuse me.
And that's what I loved about the books. I mean, there's so much that is genuine, handed down history.
Yeah.
Through, like, the stories that your Aunt Jet told you, through living it. That is stuff that you don't get a lot of in a lot of the books that I've read in the past. And it's so truthful. And it's not just one-sided. It encompasses, all the different nationalities and things that was going on in the South at that time. And that was something that was very eye-opening when I read it. Was, he's laying it all out there.
I know. It was just the one thing, the way that I'm now in Hollywood, as you ladies know now, and the first statement that I pitch people whenever I'm pitching this book is that this is not a Mississippi burning at all. There is not an aggressor narrative, and there is not a victim narrative. We have people now do understand something. The Blood Brother Chronicles and the production itself will be brutally honest. There was some shit that happened that was horrible. It was horrid. It was beyond horrid. It was demonic. It was simply inhumane. But we're not going to go down the whole victimhood thing. Were Black people victimized? Yes, they were. Were Jewish brothers and sisters victimized? Yes, they were. Were Irish and Czechs victimized? Yes, they were. Were of course, Native Americans, they were victimized well before everybody else was. Yes, they were. But they weren't victims. And the survivors will tell you this. We were not victims. We were survivors. We survived. I want to change that narrative. Because one thing that I want to give back to all the sons and daughters of the South, I want to give back to you your humanity. I want to give back to you your pride. Because your ancestors, they weren't victims. They lived through a time that would make us crawl up into a ball and shake and shiver until we literally died. And they did it with grace, an understanding of self, and they did it with pride. Understanding when you wake up every morning living in 1922, imagine living in a time where you walked out the safety of your home, not understanding if you were going to get back that day, and and you would have had to do anything to anyone. You're in constant fear of constant understanding that you could die because some white person felt that you looked at them wrong, or felt that you disrespected them, or just felt that they just wanted to kill you. And the law wouldn't do anything for them. They would take them to court and they usually get off. And this was widely known. So one thing that I want to do is that I want to take away the victimhood. In the Blood Brother Chronicles, Sally Mae, her story, being raped at such a young age. Just the story of the brothers in jail when Ben has to break out Big Myrtle's cousin and then finds the land lost deeds, and that's one mystery that starts itself. These are not victims. These are survivors. But also, too, one thing that I wanted to do, and I'm a son of the South. Aunt Jet used to tell me, and it's not just Aunt Jet, it's Mama Alice, Aunt Gino, Aunt Margaret, my great-granddaddy, his father. Nobody talks about those that lived during that time, white brothers and sisters, Jewish brothers and sisters, Black brothers and sisters, Native brothers and sisters, that acknowledged each other's humanity. Who tells the story of the white shopkeeper that sold candy to all of his children, to all children? Not just white kids, but to Black kids too, and to Native kids, even though the Klan didn't want him to. The Klan were very petty. Who tells the story of the white sister who had the dressmaker shop? The main shop in all of Colorado County. This is a true story. Both of them were true stories. who sold the same beautiful dresses to her black patrons and her native patrons that she would sell to her white patrons. Though she couldn't sell them up front, she sell them in the back. But she would serve refreshments in the front, and she served refreshments in the back to her patrons that are people of color. She valued all of them. She valued all of her clients, and she treated everyone the same. But there are hundreds and thousands of these stories, singular narratives, so many of them, of people simply saying, that shit may be law, but that's not how I feel because you are important to me. I don't care what Jim Crow is. That don't mean nothing to me. What matters to me is a man or woman standing in front of me. That's what matters. And that's how the Deep South is. We care about each other because we've had to learn to form bonds where there really was never supposed to be any bonds at all. Jim Crow tried to separate us. But in this Deep South, who tells these stories of these people? So the Blood Brother Chronicle is also full of just love. Of course, there's sex, there's violence. It is what it is. There's plenty of magic. There's supernatural. There's so much magic. There's so much. There's voodoo, and all these wonderful beings, shapeshifters, vampires, everything. But the underlying message is the fact, whereas I just want to tell the truth of so many of these people, that nobody tells a story. The Mississippi burning. It bothered me continuously because me being a son of the South, understanding at a very early age that yes, they were horrible people, but they were not the only story. There were so many more of them that were kind and wonderful, and we all got along together.
It's true. It's definitely a good read, and I hope everybody watching will definitely check into it and give it a go through because it definitely has so much substance to it.
Thank you.
That being said, I know we're mostly focusing on the Blood Brother Chronicles. For those wondering, since you mentioned it earlier, you are holding on to a gem, the 3014 AD. You mentioned that it would come out hopefully in 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Do you have any teasers for the audience about that? Just a real quick.
Oh my God. 3014 is a book based set in 1,004 years from now. It's based on the whole dynamic, whereas man, it's a hugely science fiction. Man tried to, the way as the story goes, man basically accidentally discovered God, the source of all life, and did so accidentally by basically just cutting a wormhole in the fabric of creation, or in the veil of creation itself, and discovered God. And all of a sudden, they took this divine energy that is God, and they bottled it up, and they're now using it as a source of power for these amazing technologies, such as the wrist hollow, and 3014 AD, we have what's called a wrist hollow, and oh, so sorry. Sorry about that. That's on my writing pals. Sorry about that. But a wrist hollow it's a technology, whereas from this technology, can you guys still see me? Hold on just a minute.
Yeah, we got you.
We see you. You just sounded tin canny for a minute. That's all.
Yeah, I know, David. I should have just put my phones on mute. Well, anyway, I can't. No, the wrist hollow right here it's one of the technologies inside the book. Whereas you, from this little implant inside your wrist, it's a platinum implant. You can control a car, which reminds you that can go faster than the speed of light, and it can do interdimensional travel, which means you can go from hundreds and thousands of different dimensions. It's just, oh my God, what is wrong with this guy? I'm so sorry. This very, very needy person. Sorry about that. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Dave is my very best friend, but hold on, let me get back.
There we go.
Already call. Sorry about that, guys. No, Dave is my business partner, and can you guys see me?
You vanished again.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. How about this?
Okay.
If your camera decides to work, let it work. Because we love your beautiful face, but go ahead and talk. Try to get your camera back online because you've got shiny things to be showing us here soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we'll do.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I know. It's just the thing. Like it's
the plague of popularity.
He did not. He had no idea of knowing.
I should have had elevator music queued up, but I'd say keep rolling and he'll get his camera back on in a second.
I'm so no.
That's okay.
Anyway,
that's okay.
Let's get back. But listen, 3014 AD, the whole technology. So the whole book. Now I've written 9 books. What I want to do is that I want to wait. I want to wait to actually send them to a real world publisher, because it's 9 books so far. I really want them to be like 20 different volumes, and it's just world after world after world, dimension after dimension. You have Sevari, which we call angels, and Sevari are basically just beings that are incredibly beautiful. They're like men and women, but they have wings on their back, and they have the wing guards. Wing guards are, depending on their hierarchy, can be made of platinum, gold, and diamonds and everything. But it's based around this one guy named David. And there's something very, very wrong. There's this it's about galactic, intergalactic greed of this one conglomerate who wants to take so many resources from so many different planets and so many different interdimensional worlds. And it's David, and he's going through these great adventures and through all these different dimensions, meeting all these super duper interesting people. And it's just adventure after adventure after adventure, meeting person. Now, Stacey, you know how I write. Imagine that spanning so many different dimensions. And you're learning about different people. And you're learning about people that may not necessarily, they may look like you, but they're not like you, actually. Like the Sesvari. They look like you, except they have wings. And they have 2 hearts. They have a heart here and a heart here. And then, of course, you have the sexual politics with this Sesvari. They're immortals. But they also, like in our world, we have what I call cerebral politics, or politics that are just based on ideas and things of that. Their politics are very much like ours, but they also have sexual politics, where sex is power in their world. Because they're vastly wealthy, because they don't really die. So they build, it's just like, if you're over 10,000 years old, you're going to have a lot of wealth because you lived a long time. But it's just a really amazing world. So.
He is so good at expanding on his ideas. He would be dangerous to let loose in a room with Sonali.
I want to meet her.
We'll see about arranging that. I think Stacey had one more thing and then was going to pass.
I think we're pretty. Let's see. I think we're good. I know with your history as a medicine man and Native American, Shay was fascinated by this, and since she couldn't make it, Chris will be pulling some of the questions for her. So I'm going to be passing off to Chris now, and she can help people explore a bit about you and that side of your personality and who you are.
Cool.
So, Chris, if you want to jump in, I'll jump out.
Sure,
thanks, Stacey.
So hi, Theodore.
Hi.
So I know you talked a little bit about this, quite a lot actually. So we'd like to get some more information, because I know there's a lot of people like myself who aren't 100% sure what being a spiritualist or a medicine man, what they do. So could you give us a little bit of what that is, and how much of your culture that you bring into it, that you experience in like in your life?
Being a spiritualist, how can I? Well, a spiritualist. What exactly is a spiritualist? A spiritualist is a human being or a living inside the skin. It's the skin suit, but you have what I call a multilingual understanding of life. I like to call myself trilingual concerning my life. I understand energy. I understand energetic experience of life, tactile experience of life, as well as a mental understanding of life. Most people only have two: the tactile and mental. As a spiritualist, all that it really honestly is that I've invested from a very early age a lot of that understanding concerning the third, the energetic understanding of life. How can I explore this life through not just what I feel, but what's behind that, the energy behind that. How does it feel? For instance, you pick up a piece of moldavite or a piece of obsidian. Most people will see it just as a rock, but we'll let it weigh in our hands, and then we have a delicate understanding concerning our spirit body, and then we'll simply say, well, how does it feel? And it's that little bitty, it's that curiosity, the little divine spark of curiosity. That's what spirit is. That's what being a spiritualist is. It really is just being cosmically, celestially, and spiritually nosy. Because you just want to know how everything works from behind the scene. You want to know, why does this mineral god or this turquoise, why does this feel different from that beautiful piece of garnet? And why does that piece of garnet feel different from that piece of garnet? Excuse me. I was blessed to be born into an indigenous family that really placed a lot of emphasis and a lot of importance on your spirit body and understanding the spiritual aspects of this world. A lot of people don't really have that luxury. It's really just placing a vested interest on what you feel on the inside and how what you feel on the inside reflects and interacts on the world on the outside. And how those two have a very dynamic relationship, and understanding how that relationship affects your life, and understanding how the unspoken language of spirit, understanding that language, because it's going on everywhere we go. Every time you meet someone new, your spirit body is having a conversation with their spirit body that none of us really pay any attention to. Have you ever noticed? Now you probably have. But there are a lot of people out there, they've been in front of people, they're like, oh my God, he or she feels just, oh, I just got the willies. That's because your spirit body is telling you that they've had a conversation with their spirit, and they're like, oh no, girl, walk the fuck away. Or, oh no, oh no, guy, oh no, that's a new friend. Let's go walk over to him or her. That's a new friend right there. That's that feeling. Being a spiritualist, you learn to trust intuition. It's basically just your spirit body, simply just trusting that voice and letting that voice lead you and guide you in this life. That's all it is.
Yeah, so much not so much a gut feeling, but like it comes from somewhere. Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I feel kind of bad that Shay couldn't be here because she'd be nerding out right now.
Oh,
and you guys could talk on and on about it.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the, I love talking about it. It's, for instance, pardon me, when in order to find Slick, I couldn't find Slick for a very, very long time. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Kane, Chris is going to see this video. And I found Slick through Chris. Now, I remember I started doing all these videos and all this promo, utilizing, of course, with transformative clause, so I couldn't get sued. But basically just utilizing his massage as Slick on all these promos, just pumping them out. Really great stuff. And just pumping them out, and getting a lot of attraction to the book. I knew, in a sense, what I was doing was wrong, but I knew spiritually it was so right because he is slick. To whereas I wanted him to play slick so bad in the production, so I literally kind of forced it out there. Actually, I didn't force anything. He is slick. That's who the universe chose to play slick. I'm just basically following along. I let basically in this situation, not paying any attention to laws, not being afraid they might be sued or not. Yeah, not being afraid if I was going to be sued. I'm just simply saying, you know what? If the universe feels that this should happen, I'm going to let it happen.
Yeah, and I actually have speaking of the universe and all of that good things. I have a question. We talked a bit about what a spiritualist is and what they do, but I may be a complete and total noob to all of this. But I have a good feeling that spiritualist and medicine man are two different things. So for people like myself who have no idea what the difference is, since you did talk a little bit about healing earlier, would you tell us a little bit about what a medicine man does for those like myself who have no clue?
Well, a medicine man basically is just a holistic doctor. A medicine man is just a doctor in spirit. We have a lot of doctors. There's being a doctor or a medicine, being a Western doctor, you have to go to college, you have to take 8 years of medical school. Being a medicine man, I can't speak for all medicine men of all First Nations, but I can speak for myself. I have a boucher that's over 275 years old, and it's usually worn by medicine women. And I'm the first guy to ever wear it since its creation. This is something that you have to be called to by spirit. You've got to be called to this. But basically, it's just I'm just a doctor, but my tool, my medicine, my practice deals only with spirit and how spirit affects the physical body. So I utilize different herbs, powders, I create different potions, concoctions on how I can heal my clients inward outwards, whereas Western medicine heals outwards inwards. I heal inward outwards. That's how it's a little bit different.
Gotcha. Well, since you brought up what sounds like one of your tools, that was going to be my last question for you. Do you have any of those tools on hand? I'm pretty sure what you just mentioned was
oh God, I'm wearing one actually in my hair.
Is that the one I saw on your vlog?
Yeah, this is my bouchard. This right here is, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
This has three. These are 3 rattlesnakes. I'm going to show them to you one at a time. That's one. That's one snake there. That's one snake. That's its crown. That little ring belonged to my great grandmother. That ring is about 200 years old. Ow. That was her crown for this serpent, which represents the sacred male. This right here is another one. This is another gold piece that belonged to, I believe, her mother, and it represents the yoni, and it has actually chipped diamonds in it. So that's how old it is. And this represents the sacred feminine.
You have a caduceus right there.
This last piece, this piece right here is probably the oldest out of all of them. This piece is so old we don't know where it came from or which ancestor it came from. We think it was her grandmother's husband, who was a goldsmith from. This was well before the Louisiana state purchase, and he made this for her. But this represents me, sacred male. I'm actually one of 3. So then we have turquoise, copper, and all around. And now the serpents themselves, are probably around about 85 to 90 years old. But the jewelry, what we call spirit crowns, their crowns are what they are. That's what's old. Now these are the oldest parts of the shop. But then you have the turquoise, garnet, and hypersteam. all around. So yeah, that's that. And then I have these are called totems, spiritual totems, and it's just deer antler,
Oh,
and
wow.
you have my different celestial seal on it, and I use it just to focus my energy. And I have two of them. Sometimes I wear them. I wrap them in black, and I wear them in my hair. And what I do is that I just use them to focus my energy. And I wear them if I need answers. But it's also a really great way to stay connected to my ancestors.
Alchemical
So a lot of these different symbols, or celestial symbols, are power symbols that belong to my ancestors. So it's a really great way of staying connected to the spirit.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I'm sorry,
I'm gonna
a lot
have
to
to
take
kidnap
in.
him after this phone call to talk about all the things I actually understood on that totem. But
I understood
But
nothing.
but keep in mind, guys, out of all of that, the most unique seal that I have that gives me permission to do all of this, and it's so simple. It's this one seal right here.
nice.
Now, what does it look like? The serpentine.
Looks like an anchor.
Yeah.
Well, this right here, this is a sacred symbol, meaning that I can speak things into creation. Actually, it's a primordial symbol representing the serpent tongue. Sacred serpents have always been in every single culture. Sacred serpents have always been incredibly medicinal. Even in ancient Rome, in ancient Greece, they were always said to be medicinal.
I'm gonna be a dick and break order here. I don't know if you can see that, but here we go. Go on.
But this right here is the most important seal of all. Right under my bottom lip.
Wow. And it's so fitting too, because you're an author and you take these stories and you put them out there, you speak them into being.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Cool.
I think we have a few, not a lot, but we do have a few audience questions. Now, Angie had asked, it sounds like you write books about different cultures than just your own. So when you're going outside of your personal culture, like how much research are you putting into it?
How much research? As much as it takes, but if I usually kind of stay in my own comfort zone. But let's say if I have to write anything about another First Nation, such as Sioux or Cherokee, and I have to involve them in my books, and I have to create a character around them, then I'm going to do the research. If it's about a spiritual practice, especially an age-old spiritual practice based in folklore, if anything, if it's something that I don't know, I like to do my research. Because people will call you out if it's wrong, and not only that, but when you do research and you do, whatever you're writing, you do it right, you're doing justice by people, because these practices belong to people, and they're important to somebody. So it's just do them a justice. Just do your research.
Yes, and it's very respectful. And again, this isn't really a question, but it was a recurring thing in our little chat room here. People were commenting on the amount of, I guess you'd say, respect put into your work. And I've been reading, everyone is genuinely fascinated and impressed with, your historical knowledge, your, I guess you'd say, racial and class-based issues that you've represented in your work. So I just wanted to let you know, like, people notice, and we do just appreciate. Heck, I'm a very Viking-looking white girl, and I still appreciate the representation you're putting out there for everyone else that went through that kind of adversity.
Yeah, One thing that I want to do is that I just, if I can't, I just want to stress that this Jim Crow affected everybody. It affected some more so than others. But through that time, we were brothers and sisters, more so than not. And the Blood Brother Chronicles is just a book about not only that, but just adventures and sex and blood. And it's just a lot of fun. But at the very, very core of that, I just want to show people that, I want to get in platforms and get in front of auditoriums and talk to young kids and to young people. Remove that narrative that films like Mrs. Now, mind you, I love Mississippi Burning. I think it's a very important film. But we need to change the narrative. We need to change it already. That narrative served its purpose. Now we have a bunch of white brothers and sisters walking around every single day that every time they see a person of color, specifically a person like me, they feel guilty for something that they really honestly had nothing to do with. Now, mind you, the system that's been created does benefit them. But they had no active part in what happened to my people, Black or Native. None. Let's stop the narrative. Let's start the healing. That's what needs to happen.
That's thank you. Like, it's definitely true. I also wanted to say you've got a very excited fan that came running in last minute here, Beth Creedle, who's like, "Hi guys, I almost forgot, but I didn't." So, Beth wanted to know. We've actually briefly covered this. We can brush back over it. How long till you'll start working on 3014 or 3014? You said you're hoping to release 2020.
It's gonna be out in 2020. Beth has read 3014. She's read all books except for book 9, and I refuse to give it to her because I haven't done a hard edit on it. I want to have 3014. I want to have 3014 actually ready for the world in 2020.
Okay. All right. Like, now, first of all, Beth, there was some great content in here, so I do suggest going back through and watching. Theodore is a pleasure to speak with and answered bunch of things very thoroughly, and this has been genuinely fascinating. Like, maybe sometime we can run some sort of like spirituality workshop stream, right?
That'd be awesome.
Does that count as cult fandom, like hashtag Greek Pantheon? Like,
listen, I can talk about that for days on end, literally.
So can I. Like I said, I'm gonna have to kidnap you. Like,
yeah. So let's talk about our experiences, because we're all spirit people here, all of the spirit people, and just talk of this powwow. We should have a powwow.
That's what we should do. We should get him and Sonali and a couple of us that deal in this and do a stream focused on that someday. What do you think?
Yay!
Okay.
That would be cool.
Okay.
I love it. So I'm gun ho for it.
But hashtag Greek Pantheon. No, I'm joking. But Stacy?
Yeah, thanks again for coming and talking with us today, Theo. I'm a huge fan, and we're hoping everybody here will check out the books. We'll definitely make sure they get links to everything.
Cool.
I hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to maybe some big news with you in the future as this progresses for you with your books and releases for number 3. And, there's a lot going on.
Book 3 is hardcore edits. It's going to be out. I want book 3 to be one of the first books in the Blood Brother trilogy to be published by a real. I'm a real publisher, self-published, but a real publisher out there to all the world, for all the world to enjoy. To then back up and enjoy 1 and 2.
We'll see about but as far as campaign for a big 5 here.
I know, right? Exactly. But you know what? But as far as production, we all should. I just really wish that Christian Kane has been so gracious about everything, and he's just such a doll just to deal with. And he's really, really fucking beautiful. I don't care. Listen, it's probably his wife. It's whatever, God's blessing. But I don't care. It's no shame in my game. But he's just such an inspiration. It's such a muse, and we just need to. I really wish a lot of the K-Nex would just get behind this project, because for so long I was just on my own. Now, mind you, I had Beth, and I had Valerie, and I have Stacy. I have you guys, and then my God, I had another Rose. I had you girls with me all the time, and you have been so just like the wind under my wings. And I love you for it. And thank you so, so very much.
Chris, maybe
It was just us for so long. We need to get other people involved.
we will.
I would love to get, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to make Chris mad at me because he's crazy about his Canadian accent. I don't have permission to do that.
I was so confused for a second there because I'm like, I'm not mad.
Listen, if Chris wants to get his Caniacs involved, I'm gonna let him do that. Because I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna let him do that because that is his fan base, that's his family, and let him do that. But it is what it is.
Well, we want to thank you again. Thank you guys for watching CultFans Live. You want to keep tuning in. You want to more about Theodore in the description. And don't worry guys, we'll be covering the Outpost and Aerostorm again shortly. So follow, subscribe. Also make sure to push the bell so that way you get notifications when we go live. And we'll be back here soon. And want to say bye to you guys, and thanks so much, Theo.
Bye.
We're about to be heading out, but if you tuned in late, go ahead and watch back. We love y'all. We love Theo. Stay tuned. We'll be back here next week.